Welcome to Sovereign Reality with Natalie, a podcast for women done playing small. I'm Natalie, metaphysical guide and metaphorical keeper of the flame. Each week, we will channel the power of a different goddess, her myth, her message, and her medicine, so that you can rise, reclaim, and remember who the hell you are. The world doesn't need you quiet, babe. It needs you lit up. So let's rise. Hey, beautiful babes and magical women. You're in the right space. I'm Natalie, and today we are stepping fully into the radiant, magnetic, unapologetic energy of the goddess Isis. She's the mother, the magician, and the one who remembers and restores. Isis's story is interesting and somewhat intense. So she loved her brother Osiris. All right, let me backtrack. This guy wasn't just her brother, he was also her lover. Do with that what you will. But she loved him with a devotion that defies modern understanding. She crossed deserts, darkness, and the edges of the world to find him after he was torn from her life. When Osiris was taken from her, he was dismembered. So she basically went to the edges of the earth, as I mentioned, to piece him back together, bit by bit, bone by bone. She absolutely refused to let him be lost. And I really love this about her. I love the devotion she felt. I loved the courage and the strength of her love. And I feel like it's a beautiful lesson for all of us women, that love, devotion, and courage are sacred forces. Isis was willing to defy limits, society, and fear itself to reclaim life, to reclaim balance, and to reclaim power. And all I can think about is if us women could love ourselves with that amount of devotion, courage, the willingness to defy the limits that society has placed upon us and reclaim and remember ourselves. Man, that's a powerful energy. That's a powerful energy to claim. But here's something important, girly pops. Isis's story was deliberately silenced and reshaped over time. Patriarchal societies wanted to diminish the power of goddesses everywhere, to erase the recognition of women as sacred, creative, and central to life itself. Her story, a woman who was fiercely intelligent, magically potent, and unafraid to claim power, was too threatening. They wanted and continue to want women to be quiet, compliant, and basically invisible. They wanted our instincts, our wisdom, our sovereignty to be undermined. But the magic of Isis, the part that reminds us that women can heal, protect, create, and rule, was actively suppressed, overwritten, and buried under centuries of cultural conditioning. But here's the magical truth, babes. Power cannot be silenced forever. It can be hidden, forgotten, or ignored, but it always waits for those who are ready to remember, for those who are willing to do as Isis did, cross deserts, darkness, the edges of the world to remember yourself. And I mean that as an internal journey, meeting your own darkness, pushing your edges, knowing when and where you need to heal, where you need to reclaim, where you need to step into the most sovereign version of yourself. So today, beautiful women, that is exactly what we are doing. We are remembering, reclaiming, and calling back what was never meant to be lost. Isis's story resonates so deeply today because many women are remembering parts of themselves that have been hidden, dismissed, or silenced. Many of us are reclaiming our instincts, our voices, our bodies, our intuitive wisdom. And Isis can be the perfect guide for helping us through this. She reminds us that our power is not optional, it's our birthright, that our worth is inherent, and that we are sacred daughters of the divine goddesses in human bodies, carrying a divine inheritance that can never be taken from us and has never been taken from us. For me personally, my connection to Isis began pretty early on in my spiritual awakening, I met the person that I would call my twin flame. I would label him that. And I don't mean that in maybe the documentary version that you've seen on Netflix or some romanticized version that is all over the internet, this idea that you are less or half, that this person completes you. It's not that way. At least in my experience. And I think that the title, the label, whatever you want to call it, has been very misconstrued, but that's not what this podcast is about. So I'm labeling this soul connection as my twin. Take that as you want, but I'm going to let you know right now, it's the least romantic thing I've ever experienced. Yes, it is. There is a love, obviously, a very deep love. There are romantic feelings, yes, of course. But what I found is that this person helped me remember my wholeness. Osiris and Isis were twin siblings, obviously, but just like me and my twin. And my twin had metaphorically been ripped from my life several times through choices that he made and all of these things. But in that process, I sort of went to the ends of the earth to reclaim bits of me. Now, at one point, it had a lot more to do with him, like me wanting to do these things to bring him back into my life, to keep him in my life, to find union. Eventually, as I grew and I healed, it became about how to love me better, how to appreciate me more, how to be sovereign in a world that wants to put you in a certain role, in a certain position, and really live from your truth and really live from, well, my truth, right? I was discovering what my truth is, what my truth was, what I'm here to do, my purpose. We all have a purpose. I mean, everybody's is going to be different, but I learned so much about me through the experience of trying to find union with this soul. When in actuality, what ends up happening is you find union within. Eventually, I don't know what's going to happen with me and him, but right now, especially given these times and really just looking at where we are collectively, this is where I am meant to be. This is what I am meant to be doing, and I feel that in my bones. But I would not have been able to reclaim or own this part of me had I never taken that journey of discovering. And for me, it truly was a discovering. It wasn't a rediscovery, because I didn't know half of the stuff within me even existed. And I wouldn't have known that had I not met this person. Your discovery could come about differently. Your ahas, your personal journey is going to look so different, or maybe similar to mine. I don't know. And everybody's is different. And that's beautiful. That's what we're all here doing, right? We're all having our human experiences as souls in these bodies. And my hope is that as you're listening to this, you're recognizing perhaps pieces of you that you're not in touch with, or pieces of you that have been silenced or buried or ripped from you in a sense. And Isis is just such a beautiful goddess to help us reclaim what is inherently and divinely ours. For so long, and maybe you can relate, I doubted my own worth. I felt small, and I felt like I was constantly trying to prove myself, and at the same time, the world reflecting back to me that I wasn't enough. So working with Isis and just really embracing her power and her energy helped firmly yet gently remind me, and maybe you need this reminder as well, that you are more than enough. Your power is real, and it's time to remember who you are. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like looking at the person who is currently in office and looking at the amount of women who actually support this is a really hard pill for me to swallow. And maybe you feel the same way. My observation, and I could be wrong, this could be projection, I don't fully know, but this is just what I feel, sense, intuit about the situation, is that these are women who are disconnected from themselves. They're disconnected from their intuition, and they're most definitely disconnected from their power. And that matters. It matters because every woman who forgets her worth, silences her voice, or hides her magic contributes, even unconsciously, to a culture that undervalues women. There is both a conscious and an unconscious misogyny baked into our daily lives. It's baked into our social norms and expectations. And then when we ignore it, we just allow it to grow. So that's why reclaiming your power is not just a spiritual practice, it's a social act, a revolutionary act. Every time you remember who you are, every time you call back a piece of your power, every time you honor your body, your voice, your sacred worth, you are standing up to a system that has tried to bury us. You are saying clearly and fiercely, I am here, I am powerful, I am not invisible. And yes, girl, it can feel lonely because it seems that so few women are doing it, or in my opinion, just not enough. If this person is in office, if he has so many women supporters, clearly there are not enough women doing this. But that's exactly why it's sacred, why it matters, and Isis shows us the way. She can help remind you that remembering, reclaiming, and standing in your power is never optional if you want to live fully. If you want to create a world where women are valued, respected, and free, then you have to do the work. So today, let's do a little something together. This is a ritual that's not complicated and it's not overthought, but it's one that can help you call back your power and to help you start remembering your sacred worth and awaken the goddess within you, or reawaken her. I will put this information in the show notes so that you can come back to it if you need to, especially the journal prompts. That way you have it, you've got the affirmation, because if you're driving and you're listening to this, obviously you're not going to be able to do this right now, so you might have to come back to the podcast itself or just come to the show notes, and this information will be in there for you, okay? So this is called the Isis Power Calling Ritual for Women. What you're going to need is a quiet, safe space, a candle. You can choose any kind of color candle you want. Gold, white, purple are ideal, but they don't have to be that color. I like to get tea lights from the dollar store and just use them because they're affordable, and why not? And then of course you're going to need your journal and pen or grimoire if you have one. So the first thing we're going to do is light the flame. As you light your candle, whisper or silently say, I call the energy of Isis to me. I open to remembering my power as a woman. And just take a moment to feel her wings of protection and wisdom wrap around your heart and body. Next, you'll gently close your eyes, take a deep breath, and bring to mind the parts of yourself that have been hidden, dismissed, or devalued. This can be anything from your intuition, your creativity, your sensuality, your confidence, your worth. But you're going to gently let those parts rise to the surface. Just noticing all of them and mentally taking notes of all of these pieces that come to mind as you breathe deeply. And when you feel ready, just come back, and you're going to allow yourself to free write without censoring yourself. These are some of the prompts that you can consider. Of course, don't limit yourself to this if you don't feel the need to, okay? I'm just offering them as suggestions. Which parts of myself have I been hiding or silencing? Where have I given my power away? And how can I call it back today? How does it feel to remember that I am goddess energy in a human body? What is my divine inheritance as a woman, and how will I honor it now? Place your hand over your heart and speak aloud. I call back all my power. I honor my sacred worth. I claim my inheritance as a goddess on earth. Feel it ripple through your body. Let it settle into your bones and your being. And we'll close with gratitude, thanking Isis for her guidance and protection. You can blow out the candle if you wish, or leave it burning for a few moments to anchor the energy. Please make sure it's in a safe place to let it burn. And then return to this ritual whenever you need to remember your power. The other thing I want to mention about this is when you're speaking the affirmation, especially as a goddess on earth, notice how that feels when you say something like that about yourself. Do you feel a twinge of rejection around it? Does it feel weird? Does it feel like blasphemy? Those are religious woundings. A lot of times, it's also a good indicator on how in touch with your feminine essence you really feel. So if it feels weird to say that to yourself, or it feels weird to claim this for you, there's something there, and it might come later. It might start to unravel, bit by bit, and you might start piecing things together, much like Isis herself. But I invite you to lean into it. Don't ignore it, because that's your body, that's your mind rejecting a new story. And in order for us to be sovereign and live in sovereignty, we have to embrace the idea of our power, of our innate goddess-given power. It's rightfully yours. It belongs to you. Own it, claim it, live it. So gorgeous. Isis is teaching us that remembering ourselves is a revolutionary act, that reclaiming our power, our bodies, our voices, and our worth is sacred work. Today, you have begun that remembering. You've called back pieces of yourself, and each time you do, your life will shift, not just on the surface, but deeply, soulfully, and permanently. Go forward, beautiful babes. Step boldly into your magic and remember who you are. Call back your power. Live like a goddess because you are one. If today's episode lit something up in you, if it helped you remember a piece of your power, please share it with a fellow goddess, a soul sister, or another babe who's ready to rise too. Because the more of us who remember, the stronger we all become. And if you're craving more sacred rebellion, come hang out with me on TikTok and Instagram at Sovereign with Natalie. You'll also find my offerings and some gorgeous free rituals when you sign up for my email list at www.sovereignsanctuary.space. It's like having a little portal of divine feminine magic delivered straight to your inbox, but just once a month because I'm not looking to spam y'all. Now, make sure you join me next week because we're going to dive into the magic and the medicine of the goddess Lilith, the original rebel. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. And just a reminder, a brand new episode drops here every Wednesday, so mark your calendar. Until then, stay wild, stay sovereign, stay powerful, because the world doesn't need you quiet, babe. It needs you lit the fuck up. That's your divine download for the week. If this episode lit your fire, share it. Leave a review and subscribe so the flame keeps burning bright. If you want more sacred rebellion, you can come find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sovereign with Natalie. Remember, you are the storm. You are sovereign. Stay wild, stay sacred, and keep rising.